Most people will work for 40 years and never get rich. Not because they're lazy, but because they're using a model that makes wealth almost impossible. They follow the path exactly as it was designed. They show up, stay consistent, and do what's expected. And because it looks normal, no one questions it. That's what makes it so dangerous. And the worst part? It looks exactly like what you're supposed to do. There's a specific moment where people could escape this, a clear turning point. But almost nobody takes it. Not because they can't, but because it feels wrong. It feels unstable. It feels uncertain. It doesn't come with guarantees or approval, and most people are trained to avoid that feeling, so they stay where it's predictable. I'll show you that moment in a second. If you've ever thought, I'm working hard, but I'm not actually getting ahead, that thought doesn't come from nowhere. It's not laziness or lack of discipline, it's your awareness picking up a pattern. Something isn't adding up, then you're not imagining it. You're experiencing a structural limit, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. We've all been taught the same formula. Work hard leads to earn money, leads to build a good life. It's repeated everywhere. Schools, families, culture. It becomes the default blueprint for success. And because everyone follows it, it feels correct. But popularity doesn't make it effective. It sounds logical. Let's make this real. $30 an hour, 40 hours a week. That's $62,400 a year. On paper, it looks solid. It looks like progress. It looks like stability. But numbers don't tell the full story. After taxes, around $46,000. Now here's what nobody says. Out of that, maybe $500 a month actually moves your life forward. Because most of it disappears into survival, rent, food, bills, obligations. Very little actually builds anything. Most of it just maintains your position. That's $6,000 a year. Now stretch that out. 10 years. $60,000 of real progress in exchange for 20,000 hours of your life. Now here's the uncomfortable question. What did those 20,000 hours actually build? Did they create freedom? Did they create leverage? Or did they just sustain the same cycle? Because they're gone forever. And it gets worse, because the real cost isn't just the time. It's the unseen version of your life. The version that could have existed instead. The opportunities that were never explored. The paths that were never taken. It's what that time could have become. If those same 10 years were spent building something scalable, a skill, a system, an asset, the early phase would feel slow, uncertain, even frustrating. But underneath that, something is forming. Something that doesn't rely on hours. The outcome doesn't grow linearly. It compounds, which means the gap between the two paths isn't small. It widens quietly at first, almost invisibly, but over time, it becomes impossible to ignore. It's exponential. Here's where the trap locks in. When you're paid for your time, you start believing, my time equals my value. It feels fair. It feels logical. You trade effort for money, and that reinforces the belief again and again. And that sounds responsible, but it rewires your decisions. You stop asking, what creates leverage? And start asking, what pays me now? And those are completely different games. One builds long-term power. The other maintains short-term stability. And most people never switch. One gets paid $100 a day digging holes. The other tries to build a machine. At first, the worker wins. Money every day. Clear progress. Immediate feedback. Visible results. The builder? Nothing. No income. No validation. Just doubt. Just questions. Just uncertainty about whether it will work. But here's the part nobody tells you. The machine doesn't outperform slowly. It stays useless until suddenly it isn't. That delay is what breaks most people, because progress isn't visible at first. It doesn't feel like it's working, even when it is. One day, 10 holes, then 100, then 1,000. And in a very short window, the entire equation flips. Not gradually, violently. And this is the exact moment most people fail. Not at the beginning, but right before it works. Because right before success, it looks like failure. It looks inefficient. It looks like a mistake. Because just before systems pay off, they look like a bad decision. Low return, high effort, no proof, which makes quitting feel rational. But it's not. It's predictable. It's a pattern repeated by thousands of people. The same exit point. the same misunderstanding, the same missed breakthrough. The system phase is invisible. No rewards, no feedback, no external validation, and that silence is heavy. It makes you question everything. It makes you compare yourself to others. It makes you doubt your direction. And in a world addicted to immediate results, that's almost unbearable. People say, building something is risky, but they rarely define risk properly. They only see short-term uncertainty. They ignore long-term limitation, and that distorts the decision. But let's be precise. What's riskier, trying something uncertain for a few years, or spending 40 years in a system with a guaranteed ceiling? Because one can fail, the other is designed to limit you. A guy I know, Daniel, $28 an hour. Logistics, smart, consistent, reliable. He did everything right, showed up early, worked harder than most, stayed disciplined, overtime, extra shifts, and every year, same result. More effort, same position. Then he noticed something small, a simple system a company used to track shipments more efficiently. It wasn't impressive, it wasn't flashy, but it solved a real problem, and that's what mattered. So he tried to build something similar, and here's what happened. For months, it made less money than his job, almost nothing. And this is where most people stop, because at that point, the old model looks smarter, safer, better. But he kept going. One client, then 3, then 10. And then something flipped. That small system started making more than his job, not because he worked more, but because it kept working without him. Nothing about his work ethic changed. Only the question did. He stopped asking, how do I earn more? And started asking, what can work without me? That shift changes everything. It changes how you think. It changes what you build. It changes your future. That's the difference. Scaling. In a job, income equals time times effort. You are the bottleneck. In a system, income equals output times scale, which means you can work once and get paid repeatedly. Same effort, different result curve. That's where leverage lives. That's where growth accelerates. That's where things start compounding. Final tray. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people aren't stuck because they're lazy. They're stuck because their model feels safe, predictable, familiar. And comfort is powerful. It keeps you from questioning things. It keeps you from taking risks. But inside the same system, very few step back and question the system itself. That's why they stay stuck. Not because they don't work hard, but because they never switch games. So next time you check the clock, don't ask, how many hours left? That question keeps you trapped. It keeps you focused on time. It keeps you inside the same loop. It keeps you measuring the wrong thing.